A trip can euphemistically refer to an unusual experience, a drugged up state, or literally a journey, or in fact, a very exciting little camera. The name? It's an Olympus Trip 35. Type? It's a compact 35mm point and shoot style camera. Date of manufacture is from 1967, but it was first released in May 1968 until end of production in 1984. The origin is from Olympus Optical Company in Japan. Now you might wonder, how can you determine when your Trip 35 was manufactured? Now it is actually not that difficult. You open the back of the camera by releasing that little button. Then you remove that pressure plate, and that is done by simply sliding it out. So you take it out, and on the back there you'll see mine says N18. So how do you understand the code? So it's a 3-letter code. In one instance there's 4 letters. So you have N, that would denote the factory. In this case that would be, I think, the Nagano factory. If it has a TN, I think it's a Tatsuno factory. If it has a K, that's Kyoto. And then you have like a Japanese symbol, I'm not sure what it's called, and that is the Shibuya factory. I also found that there's a letter H, and that is Hachihoshi-shi. And really, I apologize for butchering these Japanese pronunciations. Then the second letter is a number, and that denotes the last number of the year of manufacture. Now remember, this was manufactured from released 68 all the way to 84, so you have 0 to 9. So you might wonder, okay, so how do I know whether it is a 1970 if it's 0 or a 1980 model? Very easy way is to just check what the color of your shutter release is. If it's silver or chrome, it's 1970, and if it is black, it is a 1980 model. So the last number, that is for the month, and that would be 1 to 9 would give you January to September, and then October through December would be denoted by X for October, Y for November, and Z for December, or Z if you're American. The intended market was people who would use the camera for candid photography on holiday and for general travel photos, hence the name Trip, as in a journey. Another interesting little factoid about the history of this camera is that Olympus used quite a bold advertising strategy in that they used David Bailey, the famous fashion and commercial photographer, to endorse the camera through these ads where he was seen using it in different situations.
That's very nice, thank you. And that's what it's about. I can't smile, everybody, please, smile! Waste of time if you haven't taken a light reading. It's all right. This Olympus is completely automatic. It works out the light, and you just click the shutter. Oh, it's okay for snaps, but just you try and enlarge them. You see, the trouble with these small cameras is the lens. No problem. There's a Seiko lens. They use it on the Olympus OM1, one of the best cameras in the world. Well, I suppose they're all right for you boys, but you wouldn't get a professional using one. Do you know who that is? Who? David Bailey. David Bailey? Who's he?
The Olympus Trip. So simple, anyone can use it.
It was released at the price of $59.95, and it suggested that about 10 million of these were sold from 1968 to 1984. In terms of how it works, it's a mechanical camera, even though it has auto exposure and doesn't use a battery. The lens is a fixed focal length Zuiku D 40mm lens. The lens is comprised of 4 elements in 3 groups, like a Tessar type lens, and it does in fact have a coating. Closest focusing distance is 1 meter. It works on a zone or range focus system. It focuses at 1 meter, and that would be your portrait setting on the little character there, and the corresponding distance markers are at the bottom. So as you move it along to the different settings, you can see where you are in terms of distance. The second set is 1.5 meters, then the wide group shot, I suppose, is 3 meters, and then infinity is more or less 6 meters and further, and that is your landscape setting. The lens filter size is a very odd 43.5 millimeter, but you do find adapters that you can use. Aperture, you have f2.8 all the way to f22. The shutter is auto, and it consists of two weirdly shaped blades, and you only have two shutter speeds, a 40th and a 200th. It has no self-timer. The viewfinder has projected frame lines like parallax markings, and it has a red flag underexposure system that works in A mode only, so that if you have an underexposure according to the reading from the meter, a little red flag pops up in your viewfinder and the camera simply won't fire. And then it has a little Judas window, so you can see the settings here through your viewfinder, and it has a magnification of 0.55 times. Metering, it has a coupled selenium photocell for the auto exposure. Film speed settings is 25 ASA to 400 ASA. Exposure settings, well, you have your A setting, automatic. It'll give you a shutter speed of either a 40th or a 200th, nothing in between. And it'll automatically set your aperture from f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11, f16 or f22 in full stop increments. It'll set that automatically, but you can also do a limited aperture priority by setting your own aperture, and then it'll automatically set the shutter speed to a 40th, which incidentally is also your flash sync speed. It can take flash either through the hot shoe or the X or M PC sync port over there. It has no exposure compensation setting. It has no depth of field preview. You wind the film on using this manual thumb wheel. The film rewind system is a crank system like this, and you press the little release button there, and then you wind it, and that is how you rewind your film back into the spool. It does have a frame counter, and it counts up from 1 to the last frame. The camera does have a standard tripod screw thread. Batteries? Nope. It does not use batteries. It is completely solar powered. The size is 124 millimeters by 72 by 57, and it weighs approximately 400 grams. Construction, there's some metal, like a plasticky leatherette and then plastic. It was released predominantly in this silver and black finish, but it was also released for 2 years as a black and a brass option as well, but that only lasted 2 years. Prior to June 1978, that release button was chrome or silver. Every camera after that was black plastic like that, the shutter release button, and that is helpful when you try and determine the date of manufacture of your camera. Currently, the prices that I see is $80 to $125. So how do you load the Olympus Trip 35? Well, you have your film. In this case, I have Kodak Gold. You open the back of the film compartment by depressing that little release. There we go. We lift the rewind crank, put in your film like that. There we go. Spin the rewind crank till it clips in. Pull the film over, hook it into the little slits on the wind up reel, and then you have to wind it on using the little thumb wheel. Remember, it won't actually fire if the camera is pointing at a dark area, and you won't be able to wind it on. So to avoid that, you can put it on an aperture setting like that, because the light meter will actually stop you from depressing the shutter, so you won't be able to wind it on. So once you've got like 1 or 2 rolls of the thumb wheel in, again, I'm pointing it at the light, or I could just put it at aperture setting, and I normally add another 2 frames just to be sure. See your frame counter there, it's actually at 1. I want to set the ASA. Now what I have here is Kodak Gold, and that's a 200 ASA film. There you can see your ASA settings, and you adjust it by turning the silver ring. If you wish to overexposure film, say consistently have like a +1 exposure compensation, you would set your ASA to 100. That is how you would manually accomplish a one-stop overexposure or an underexposure. You would do that by setting your ASA setting to the rating that gives you that compensation factor. And there you go, your camera is ready to rock and roll. So I took the camera out with me, not a specific field trip, I just had it with me for a couple of months. Actually, I think it took about 3 months to finish this roll of film. And as this was intended as a travel camera, I used it kind of like that. Mostly scenic type of things, here and there a portrait of friends, just to see how those portrait settings work. So I picked this up this morning from the client, and along with it I was actually also sold a Fuji Color C200 roll of film that expired, let me see, June 2024, so it's practical, still new as far as I'm concerned. So I haven't cleaned the camera, nothing. I'm just going to put in a roll of film and hope for the best. Let's see. So C200 is a 200 ISO film, but just for safety's sake, I'm going to rate it as 160. It's always better to slightly overexpose than slightly underexpose. But this is the scene. Well, the light meter has actually handled a fairly difficult lighting situation very well. I'm on a job here in Paarl, but it is a beautiful morning. You are looking at basically Paarl Rock there, a massive big granite outcrop that looks out over the Paarl Valley. And here I've got a old vineyard, well, not an old vineyard, it's fairly old, but a vineyard. And I thought there might be a nice pic here. Anyway, so back to the job. So this is the first portrait I tried with it. I think I used the sort of wide portrait setting, and yeah, it was probably quite wide aperture. I think one needs to work a little bit more carefully when you shoot portraits. This portrait of my wife was taken in really low light conditions. I was actually convinced that it wouldn't be enough light, but yeah, we got the shot. The focus is fairly sharp for being fairly close to her. I think when considering a camera like this, it's always important to consider the intent of the camera. And as the David Bailey ad suggests, it was meant for consumers, except it really delivers great results if you consider how old this camera is. Compared to some of the point and shoots of the 90s, it outperforms them, quite honestly. Now, I find it very impressive that a camera running on solar power can still deliver good auto exposure results. Now, no selenium light meters are prone to deterioration over time. Also, they have a little bit of an issue of being overly sensitive to red, which means if you point at a red subject, you might get an underexposure. The lens does vignette very slightly, and I would imagine that's as it opens up wider and wider, because some shots, especially landscapes, I didn't see any vignetting, but some that are slightly lower like this, definitely a little bit of vignetting. Again, I actually like vignetting. I definitely see that towards the corners it's a little bit softer, and you see a little bit of chroma maybe in the corners. The 40mm focal length is perfect for, in my opinion, sort of travel and street photography. 50mm is sometimes just a little bit too tight for me, and 40mm is a nice in between that, or 35mm. So I really like the focal length. The fact that it also prohibits you from doing underexposures by that little red flag system, I think is quite neat. The size and form factor is optimal for a travel camera, I think. It fits into a coat pocket, or even like this jacket, fits into that pocket quite easily. It won't fit into your top pocket maybe, like some of the spy cameras, but I had it in my bag for a couple of months and I kind of forgot that it was there most of the time. And the fact that it doesn't need batteries, that's just an absolute winner. For the prices it's currently going at, it is definitely worth it, considering that the selenium cell might deteriorate beyond usability. I would say try and find one with a black button, because then you know it's post June 1978 and it'll be the most recent model. If you plan on doing a lot of portraits and people, I would maybe think about something where you have a little bit more focus control, like a rangefinder camera, maybe like a Canon Q17 or 28. If this camera had, in a perfect world, full manual focus, yes, absolute perfect travel camera. And if it maybe had a bigger selection of shutter speeds as well, then it would be truly an aperture priority camera, which I think is would be pretty neat. But I understand this is what it is, and for what it is, I think it is pretty awesome. And lastly, it looks cool, man. It really looks cool. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, please like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I will put some links in the description, so if you want to try and pick up one of your own on eBay, I will have some links. These are affiliate links, so the seller pays a little bit of a commission to me when you end up buying that. But anyways, I will see you in the next video. Cheerio.